Recent scandal at the Australian Defence Force Academy that sparked fresh concerns about a culture of abuse in the military.
There are currently at least 6 separate investigations underway looking at behaviour and culture in the Defence Force. Tonight on Four Corners, reporter Geoff Thompson investigates the claims of servicemen and women who say they were beaten, abused or sexually assaulted. He looks at why an organisation that prides itself on sacrifice allegedly treats its staff so badly. Let's hear from some of those people.
I'm hearing some horrific stories. Horrific. I'm getting a bit emotional. A guy who has an industrial vacuum cleaner when he's aged 20 shoved onto his testicles and all over his body over a period of hours, being held down, being admitted to hospital to have blood drained off his testicles with suction marks all over his body.
The real question surely we're addressing here is whether these were widespread and systemic problems or just the odd isolated incident, or whether they're the result of a sick culture. Now, my own personal experience, and certainly the Defence Association view, is that they're not the result of a sick culture.
I'm quite confident in saying that I'm back to being the person I was before I joined the Army. I'm still very angry about it, especially because I am aware that there are people that I'm certain who were involved in the assault on me who are now senior officers in the Australian Defence Forces, and I have concerns about that.
Well, for more Four Corners, reporter Geoff Thompson joins us now from Sydney. Geoff, good morning. We heard one appalling allegation of abuse in one of those clips there. Take us through some of the other cases you've uncovered.
Well, one of the worst cases that we've encountered, Michael, is the case of a woman we'll call Claire, who's while she was serving at HMAS Cerberus on Victoria's Mornington Peninsula in 1996, she says she was pulled into a room and sexually assaulted by 3 men whilst a lot of people looked on. Now, that was one thing, but what happened the next day made it much worse, and she was ordered into an interview room with some naval police who basically said to her that you must say this was consensual, otherwise your career in the Defence Force will be over. And she alleges that the tape recorder was stopped and restarted. Now, not only did that happen, but she was fined for sexual misconduct. Talking to her now, she says this event changed her life forever. Now, what happened is that in 2004, only after she left the Defence Force, she took up her case with the Commonwealth Ombudsman. The Commonwealth Ombudsman upheld all of her complaints against the Navy, saying that her allegations were not taken seriously and that the tapes were interfered with in her interview. And the Ombudsman recommended the Navy apologise. The Navy says it did send Claire a letter, but she says she's never received it. So that allegation certainly is one of active cover-up in a case of abuse within the Australian Defence Force. Based on your reporting, and you've obviously spent months drilling down into this story, is it, as Neil James for the Defence Association inferred in the clip before, isolated cases, or are they isolated cases, or are they, based on what you've discovered, something more widespread? Look, I don't think, and I think numerous inquiries support this as well, I don't think there is a widespread culture of abuse within the military in Australia. But there is a stronger argument that there is a widespread culture of silence when abuse occurs. In all the cases that we have spoken to, and some of the stories are quite horrific, there was either an active cover-up or an act of encouragement to keep quiet, or a form of self-censorship where victims didn't speak out because they were scared of their superiors or knew very well what would happen if they did speak out. And the question is whether people within the ADF can feel safe enough to do their jobs, and when cases of abuse occur, to speak out. There have been reforms in this area, but the thinking is that a lot of those reforms have not gone far enough. That the people that they can complain to are not independent, and they still answer to the chain of command. Defence does not like someone looking over their shoulder in this regard, as has been suggested. And in terms of recruiting people to the Army, Navy and Air Force, I think that the confidence of parents of some of these young kids who go off to the military would be, is looking to be restored by people feeling they can speak out without there being dire implications.
Indeed, and we know now there are a number of inquiries into this underway at the moment. Do the alleged victims you spoke to finally hope that change is on the way?
They all do. Their concern mostly seems to be that there are people in the Defence Forces who committed some of these offences who are still serving in senior officers. Now, some of the people we spoke to simply want an apology. They don't want money, but they want a recognition that something wrong happened and something wrong that happened which changed their lives. There seems to be sometimes, and quite often in what we've found, a reluctance to report abuse at first instance, and then a reluctance within the Defence Force to deal with it in a sensitive way when it is reported.
Geoff Thompson, thanks for your time this morning.
Thanks, Mark.
And Geoff's seemingly compelling report goes to air on Four Corners on ABC1 at 8:30 this evening.